Thank you, WebCourseWorks, for inviting me to join such an awesome group of folks. And I trust that we have a lot of information that we could share and learn from each other. I bet I could learn a whole bunch from everybody in this room and those who are with us remotely. So I'm here today as the AVMA's digital education lead to share some of our journey as we are now publicly available on our digital education platform. It's a new area for AVMA to really embrace entirely wholly the digital education. AVMA has provided a lot of great information for so many years, but now we've successfully been just recently launched AVMA Axon. It was actually at the end of March, and a lot has happened since the end of March to now that will help guide us as we go into 2020. So. My discussion today will really look at what are we doing, what have we learned to work with a diverse group of subject matter experts. And first of all, you know, I'm with the American Veterinary Medical Association. I've got to ask, how many of you have pets? Let me see your arms. Let me see your arms. Okay, let me see your arms. Okay, okay. We've got about 90%, 95%, the results are coming in, 98% of folks in the room, and I trust our virtual friends have very similar results. Pets and what they do in our life, and again, what can we do to keep them alive longer so that, again, that we continue on with that healthy human-animal bond. All right. So, again, thank you for that. I appreciate that, right? I'm sure we could also share some pet stories along the way. So what we're going to discuss in a very short amount of time is we're going to look a little bit at the AVMA history and education. As I mentioned, this digital education Axon launch is not the first education they've ever provided. It's just really now we're on our platform of AVMA Axon. We'll look at that move. What were some of the challenges? Where are we? Where are we going? We'll look at, again, discuss the subject matters that we work with at AVMA, look at those components of success that we've learned. And again, like I said, though I'm sure we can learn so much from all of you as well. Now, what is our future digital education? And if we've got some time, I'll definitely answer any questions that you may have. And I also offer that if we don't have time, because I know we're on a really short track here, I'm also open to taking questions later, to email me or whatever that is, to share whatever I have. And I think, again, it takes a community to really elevate all of us. Okay, we've got an interactive poll here question. Adessa, you ready? Yep. Okay, so let me learn a little bit about everybody here. All right, so I want you to select the best one, best selection that really best fits you. Okay, and I want to see your arms here. And again, like I said, Adessa's going to kick it off on our poll with our remote folks. Hello, everybody. Engagement's fun. Okay. All right, let me see your arms now. I don't directly work with subject matter experts. Okay. John. Thank you. We don't count, right? Okay. I work with internal subject matter experts from my own organization only. Okay. All right. We have a couple in the audience. I work with external subject matter experts outside of my organization only. Let me see. Oh, all right. Again, we have two. All right. And last but not least, I work with both internal and external subject matter experts. Oh my goodness. Again, that 98%, the same amount of people, the same people who have pets. You've got correlation. Adessa, do we have any results?
They have 2 for D.
2 for D.
Yep.
All right. There you go. Well, thank you for sharing. It's good to learn more about who's in the room and who's engaging with us virtually. All right. You won't be quizzed on this. You won't receive 5 multiple choice questions after this presentation. And I don't think we're going to earn any CE, but I'm not quite sure. Credit, I don't really quite know. So a little bit of AVMA history in education. As I mentioned, AVMA has had a lot to share for many, many years. A little history about AVMA is more than 150 years old. And before the establishment of AVMA, we didn't really have standards. Standards of pet health care, standards of how we communicate with clients, Discussions about human-animal bond. Basically, if you remember, I mean, I don't think anybody was here back in those days, except me, probably. I show my age well, don't I? Anyway, so back in the day, humans started realizing how important animals are and were. Why? Were we talking about cute dogs and cats going for a ride in a boat in those days? No, we weren't. No, we were looking at those animals served a humongously valuable purpose. We needed the horses to help plow the fields, to ride into town on a cowboy or a cowgirl, or maybe pull a buggy. We relied on these animals for our life too. So we started taking better care. There's a whole bunch of history about how it formed. It's an interesting history. But long story short, the AVMA was formed, and a good thing because, again, we lead to today, which is we've got more than 93,000 members and growing. And the mission is really to protect, to promote, and advance the veterinary profession. So it's not necessarily directly taking care of the animals, but how to educate our veterinary professionals so that we can better diagnose, better communicate with clients, and therefore hopefully the pet will receive the best care possible. We have a variety of different ways that we educate, as I mentioned. We do have our convention. We have other events as well. Most of the sessions, the popular sessions at the session are about 80% of the sessions at the convention are companion animal, dogs and cats. However, AVMA again teaches about animal suffering or fish suffering. Do fish suffer? We look at livestock. We talk about opioids. We talk about so many different things. Many of the topics are very heavy. So we've done this for quite a long time, but we realized too that nowadays that we were really missing the boat with digital education. So here we are. We know we've got a new generation of folks to educate. We have a growingly more complicated environment with so many things that are coming up in the veterinary profession. How can we really educate the new generation and the existing generation about the best standards for pet care? So here we go, moving to digital education. About a few years ago, 3-4 years ago, AVMA attempted to do more digital education. And they saw the value in it. But again, like when John was mentioning about momentum, and when you've got any really great idea, you've got a great project, you've got something you really want to happen, you really got to keep that momentum when you're talking about a team. And somewhere along the line, we just really couldn't kick off the digital education like we wanted to. So we kind of let it rest. And we kept realizing how much we're really missing as far as education. Who can't come to a convention? Are we up with the times as far as how learners like to learn? And we've got the young generation now that basically they kind of walk and talk and everything, and they're on their phone learning something all the time. What are we going to do? So that's when we got together as an organization and we formed some teams within AVMA to really help this version, this time really work with digital education. Some of our goals, again, there was a whole tons of meetings and strategies developed. Long story short, the main goals were to increase our member value nowadays, increase non-dues revenue, and then become a trusted convener. All right, now what does that mean? Okay, first of all, increase member value. Well, how can we really do that? We realize, are we really bringing the state-of-the-art, the necessary information at the fingertips 24/7 for veterinary professionals? Now, before we started really getting into this AVMA Axon, most of the information that was available and at no charge were for members, and most of the members are veterinarians. So once the information, even if we had like a live webinar before our digital education platform, if we had a live event that may be open and free, no charge to the public, once it went behind our member wall on our website, the only ones that could access it would be our members and be for veterinarians primarily only. So when we were looking at building this Axon, we wanted this to be available for all veterinary professionals. Because there's a lot of information today that goes beyond clinical information. That goes beyond veterinarians adding to the amount of credit they need for their licensure. In our profession, the veterinary world, we've got practice teams, we have veterinary technicians that we rely on incredibly. Our support team, we've got our practice managers we rely on nowadays to help the veterinarian practice the best care for the best care they possibly can for the patient and communicate well with the clients. Heavy load nowadays. So we've got a team to educate. So we really wanted to be able to, again, look at how can we increase member value. So most of the courses that we have available on Axon are still remain free, no charge for our veterinarians, members, for our membership. And we've actually priced some of our courses at a member price point. Increased non-revenue dues. As I mentioned, now we are looking at educating more than veterinarians, all veterinary professionals. And then the trusted convener, we want to build collaborative relationships with those outside of AVMA, with other associations. We mentioned portals earlier. We talked about portals and how can another veterinary medical association, how can they actually work under the umbrella with AVMA Axon so they may not build or have the money or the capacity. And you'll know what it takes. Most of you know what it takes to work and build, and even working with the best group in the whole world, you know the work it really takes to build an LMS, right? Capacity, not only dollars, but also the people power. So that's where we are now as well, having those conversations, those very serious conversations about who will be joining us on our platform to be able, as a portal, to share content as well as potential revenue share. Bingo! So far, from the end of March to now, check, check, check. So what has this done? Well, it's done a lot, especially for the AVMA folks. Like I mentioned, that we're an older establishment, and we have a lot of folks who have been with AVMA for a very long time. And they at first couldn't see this thing that we're building. A lot of the people who are working at AVMA, they're awesome people. They're brilliant people. They just really couldn't see this thing. But now, actually, as we'll learn a little bit later, they actually are seeing this, the value, and that has become one of our challenges because everybody wants a little bit of space on AVMA Axon now. As we come here, the challenges, I kind of started with the current challenge. We'll work our way through. Again, we'll look at some of the growing to where we are today, and growing to working with all the subject matter experts, and how do we do that with internal subject matter experts and external subject matter experts. Again, when we started this, when we launched this, we had an older culture to deal with, and AVMA folks knew that we wanted and we needed to be more nimble in these times to be able to work with digital education. It was critical to form our teams, to have that momentum, keep that momentum going. Deb Stone by myself or my party of two really couldn't make all this happen without the drive and making sure people really saw and understood this to help us keep that momentum going. And momentum is really very important, and I think it's a really key word. We're even working with subject matter experts, as we'll see in a few moments. I don't know if you're familiar with the forming, storming, norming, performing. Typically it's a journey, but basically I call it the change element because that's the kind of same thing, that anything that's going to be a change oftentimes can just wreck it all. And then how do you get together and kind of reform and start performing again? We felt that a lot in working with my AVMA team. How are we going to change this culture and change things from what we've done, which were really good. But now again, are we really serving our members and the veterinary profession as well as we could? And we realized we really weren't. But through our digital education, we can. We had early, as we started working with our WebCourseWorks partners, we also were working on a tight timeline. We looked at different LMSs. It started with something like 35, and we narrowed it down to 12, and we narrowed it down to 5, and we narrowed it down to 3, and then we narrowed it down to 1. That took time in itself. That took time. That took time. And then you're going to see a little bit about partners, because that partner with a digital education partner is so critical when you're trying to, again, keep that momentum going on keeping all the love going for the platform. So once we've went through all that, and that was settled, we've settled on our final one and our final partner, then basically we had this content and we had stakeholders, we had sponsors who were funding some of our initial content, and we had that timeline to deal with. So we've learned from those days to not have such a tight timeline. If you're launching an LMS and or putting up a certificate program or anything else, we've learned. And believe me, as the lead for DigEd, I've learned, and I'm really trying to keep that momentum going with everybody, working with my subject matter experts, because if we pause too long, then we again get back to too tight, and it's uncomfortable for everybody. Again, we dealt with capacity. Well, we had budgetary concerns, of course. I mean, we were projecting how much is this really going to cost to build this platform. Okay, we're working with our partners. How can you help us with that? But again, we had the work capacity. We had the same folks that were now going to take on all this other stuff. Marketing team? I mean, they're stretched to the limit with all the good they do. They do so much good. Again, they're stretched to the limit by doing this digital education. Just having sheer capacity. And we didn't really hire anybody else except for just me. And again, it takes a team. It takes a really team of creative people. And so that was something we were dealing with as well, is what is the true capacity to make this thing, this beautiful thing happen. And then, as I mentioned before, I kind of opened this up that now, and one of the challenges of today, one of the biggest challenges today is now, what can we really realistically do? Let's be excited. We want to be excited. We love to be excited. I'm an excitable person here. Okay, but how can we actually not only be excited, but how can we be really realistic in making this happen with realistic timelines, right? And so that's where we are now. We've got all of those, just about everybody, the internal subject matter experts, as well as others that are coming to us that are really excited and want to be on Axon in some form or fashion. And that's where we are now, is looking at how can we, in 2020, possibly have, again, the capacity, the budget to make all this happen. So that's where we are now. It's interesting how we've gone from what is this thing to I want a part of it too. So it's been really interesting and exciting. I think that's awesome. I'd rather be on this side than maybe before. All right, some of our subject matter experts, as most of us in this room answered, you work with a mixture of internal subject matter experts and the external. And there may be a better terminology. However, basically, you know how we've identified the difference between internal and external. And this may look similar to what you have and what you're working with, is then, and this really could just be all intertwined, but to kind of show you that with our internal team, we've got these, again, very brilliant people who have actually really do really important work in helping establish, legislative items. Some of these tough areas in advocacy, career, clinical, convention, economics, and well-being and diversity. But then we have also some of our external subject matter experts who actually bring a perspective that we don't really necessarily have. And those folks may be, could be anywhere, one from a veterinarian to a technician. It could be a researcher. It could be an attorney. It could be a CPA. It could be a wide variety of folks that aren't in the AVMA, under the AVMA's roof. So, as I mentioned, that we've got the internal folks we work with, and we have the external folks we work with. In large part, when we're looking at what are some of the successes in actually working with all of these folks, because they all have different personalities, and we may have some introverts, we may have some extroverts, we may have some people that have done 1,000 webinars. Let's say if we're doing a webinar, we may have some who have never done one, or we may have had some folks who have actually already been part of certificate programs and some not. So we're kind of all over the board with where they may be. And so what we have found that works, and again, like I'm sure you could really share a lot of information too. Again, we just have been up since the end of March. Is what we're finding is that, number one, that clear communication. And I know that sounds like it's kind of basic and everything, but that clear communication with the subject matter experts and us taking the driving it, is going to be really critical. And so here's our roadmap as how we may work with a subject matter expert Let's say we've got a calendar for, let's say, 2019. We've got a topic that we want covered. And we've identified, we have, again, another team. We have several teams that do have a variety of responsibilities. We identified a certain topic, and then we look at who might be the appropriate subject matter expert for this. Okay, so, right, that's probably typical of what you all are doing. Okay, we got a topic, and who's going to address it? Well, then we have that ask. We send out an email or a call, connect with the individual to see if there's an interest and availability. Interest and availability. You may start with that. And then they respond, they go, well, sure, I'd like to do that. Then we keep that momentum going, right? I mean, okay, so then we set up a meeting, and we like our meetings to be, we set up a lot of video conferencing if possible. Not everyone feels comfortable with that, but we open that opportunity to have video conferencing. You know, with communication, there's so many ways that communication can really be impacted, right? Communication. You know, you and I even talking together. I mean, there could be a communication breakdown between you and I for a variety of reasons. Maybe it's not the appropriate time. Maybe my message, basically, you're not hearing it because you've got somebody, John, over here talking in your ear. I mean, it could be a lot of things, or let's say you've got something on your mind. Just right here, we can have some communication breakdown, let alone contacting these people that actually may be, you know, in a different state or another country. So we connect, and we talk more about what is that particular course look like, whether it's going to be a webinar or whether it's going to be a program, a certificate program, or it's going to be something else, some other idea that we want to develop, and we talk about that. So as a digital lead, what I'm doing, I'm taking the lead on every time we connect, I'm learning something about them. I'm learning something about them and actually helping develop that trust as well. And I think that trust, is very important. It doesn't mean that we're going to be BFFs and we're going to know each other so well and all that, but I will tell you something, that one of my secret ingredients to building this trust with any subject matter expert is going to be when I learn they have a pet, then it's golden. Because the more that we can connect, the more that we can relate, the more that I can get their attention, the more we can move forward. So just about almost every webinar and every single meeting, you'll see a dog or a cat come across the screen, and that actually makes the experience even more exciting, trust me. And again, any way that we can have them engaged and keep that momentum going, boy, I'll take that anytime. So again, we'll have that connection. We connect, we talk a little bit more about what is this program going to look like. I follow that up immediately with, you know, some of what everybody gets, some of the steps in the timeline that we're going to need. You know, so we can connect. We can see the dog and cat on the video, and we can have, you know, connect very well, have a great conversation. But also, there's going to be those things that we need, right? The certain components that we need from them. So we also have those tools that we provide, reminder systems, and again, like I said, I'm the one that will help move them forward. Again, we have folks who the folks who we use as subject matter experts. They're in demand. And they're the ones that probably a lot of people in our profession are pulling, right? So I oftentimes get their attention right now. I got them. They're live. I got them right now. I got them. And when I get an email from them, I'm right on it because I know I've got their attention. So again, it's about keeping that momentum going. What can you do? And so again, we have our reminder systems as well. Again, getting to that trust. I think that's one of the heart. I have this here where there's that trust that in developing a course. And again, we develop everything from the live webinars to the on-demand webinars to certificate programs to podcasts, and we're going to do the portal kind of stuff. We have more programs coming in 2020, just for WebCourseWorks to know. And thank you. So it's that trust that I trust. We've got the trust with our digital education partner. Number one, thank you for being there. We currently use the WebCourseWorks folks to build most of our courses, and I've heard some of the folks I met here today, or some of you are doing some, and then you're uploading whatever. Again, that's a work in progress for us. But at this point in time, we've relied heavily on our partner at this point in time for where we are, and we can see where we may be going. But again, like I said, where we are now, we've relied heavily on our digital education partner, WebCourseWorks. We've got the building the trust for the subject matter experts. And this does, again, like I said, it doesn't mean that, again, we're going to be BFFs and they're going to, we're going to just, trust each other so much that we're going to just be together all the time. But there's something about also that when we're connecting, keeping my word. If I'm going to send an email to them or they expect something, I'm going to keep my word on that to move them forward. Again, leading by example. Also, it helps a bit too, and this is not necessary. I'm kind of jumping to where it's helpful for the lead to have experience in the industry. What I mean by that is it's not necessary. I don't believe it's necessary for folks who are in the educational space or working with LMSs to necessarily be tried and true and experienced folks, experts in that particular field. Does that make sense? In other words, it just so happens it's frosting and it's a bonus that I've been in this profession. I can speak the language too with these folks. That has helped tremendously. So I've seen so many success stories of folks coming in the educational space from other industries, from other professions, and it works. And so in my experience here with this group, it seems to really help because I'm able to speak that language. The day in the life, I'm still in practice, the day in the life. I still go to a veterinary hospital in Austin, Texas, whenever I'm in Austin, Texas, and work with teams and see firsthand what's going on. That's helped a whole bunch with that trust. And as far as really having them kind of relying on me, thinking that, well, maybe I do know a little something, that maybe they're in good hands. Connection, as I mentioned before with the internal subject matter experts, when we were trying to move forward with AVMA Axon, in those days I remember that people just really couldn't see it, as I mentioned. And I take the time, the opportunities, and when I'm connecting with these folks, maybe let's say it's for a live webinar, let's just say a live webinar, I'm connecting with these folks, I try to help them, go from here's what the things that I need, to actually helping them with what it looks like. What is that live webinar? What does it look like? When do we connect? Who's gonna drive the slides? When do I hang up? Who gives me the questions? In other words, they have loaded a bunch of questions that really aren't addressed in our initial emails and all, and sometimes they may be either timid to ask those or not even know what to ask. But again, I try to give them what does it look like, and so when they can see it, they kind of get it better, and again, hopefully have better outcomes. And then I follow up with them and tell them all what a rock star they are, and again, because I trust that we'll be calling on them again. And the subject matter experts in some of the programs that we build, we may have several subject matter experts in a course, and whether it be on a panel discussion on a live webinar. And some of the challenges that we've experienced with that was even recently. No matter how much you prepare, no matter how much you engage and build a trust, talk about their animals and all those kind of things, kind of get it. You're on. We've got everything. Things can happen. Things can happen technologically, right? And we try to prepare for everything. And recently we went from a panel of 4 to the 11th hour panel of 2. And what do? Well, you do. You adjust. You make it happen. And it was rocking. So again, I follow up to tell them thank you so much because again, I trust we'll be reaching out to them again. And as I mentioned before, we have a variety of different courses that we are building for our veterinary professionals on AVMA Axon in particular. Everything from continuous certificate programs to the portals that I didn't mention here, and looking at where we can go next with digital education to help provide accurate and necessary and important information for our veterinary professionals. And then again, of course, the future, more SMEs, so more subject matter experts too. So, right? So, any questions that you may have concerning the journey with AVMA and Axon? Yes?
Do you charge individually for your courses?
Thank you for that. I'm going to repeat the question so that the group hears it. Do we charge individually for our courses? Right. So thank you for that. So we do. We actually charge for our on-demands, our lives, our certificate programs. We all charge individually for those courses. Again, the majority of our courses at this point in time are no charge for our members, showing that membership value. And again, there are a few of the courses, such as some of the best of the convention and conference material, that we're charging a small price for the members. Yes, so I'll say the answer is yes as far as what we charge individually. Yes.
Depends on the topic or the price.
So at this stage of the game, again, we're early days and we're learning more and more about pricing and all of the different things we can do. But at this point in time, it seems like we're looking for commonalities. And so our on-demand webinars and our live webinars, those are $25 that we charge on that. And some of the other items are going to be $30 to $15, but for actually the categories of live webinars and on-demands, we set that price at $25 or $0 for members. We have certificate programs basically that are more than that. They're $75 for non-members for our first certificate program, and again, that's still going to be no charge for members. Okay? Yes.
Following up on that, do you find any inherent tension between the first and second of your goals, underscoring the value proposition of membership vis-a-vis the drive for non-based revenue?
You know, sir, that was a big conversation.
Yeah.
I mean, big conversation. We're always looking at that member value. The word money, I'll tell you, even in our world, in the veterinary world, money is a big deal. Veterinarians and veterinary teams oftentimes are uncomfortable with talking about money with clients for a lot of reasons. And the AVMA, who's awesome association, also we're very sensitive and need to be mindful of what are we going to charge our members for dues and all those things. So yeah, so we're looking at what is that balance, and we lived with after conversation nearly 2 years of conversations and really 18 months of really building this axon. We decided that we could live with all of those three items. Number one, still showing the member value in that you're going to get all these courses. Again, I shouldn't say all because again, there's some courses that are again member priced. But again, most of the content that is on now, and that's one of our goals, is to keep that no charge for members, to show that value. And what we've done is increase the member value by having 24/7 information available for them. So that's how we could live with that. That's helped us with that, to keep that price. And again, at this stage of the game, we may learn much more from all of you about pricing. However, also we really believed in that although our members are first and foremost critical to the American Veterinary Medical Association. The members are very important. And we want to be mindful of veterinarians and medicine. However, we also realize nowadays, this has always been the veterinary teams are important, but we realize nowadays that it's critical for those veterinarians to be able to serve clients and patients like they want to, the development of the team. So we wanted to provide that information to people, to team members, and they may not be members of AVMA. So those who are members, there's something for that, something for those dues and all those things, the commitment, all those things to be part of members. And for those who you aren't, you have access to this, and we're very mindful again about setting some reasonable price points as well. And we've had associations engage to get access our information with other countries, other veterinary VMAs, veterinary medical associations outside of the U.S. who don't have this kind of care in their country. It's a way that they also can realize this information and pay a small fee.
There's also a sort of tension in terms of the frenemies versus partners. With whom do you partner and who's looking to eat your lunch?
You're exactly right. So we are, again, as we go forward and have our conversations, and this is why, you can imagine why, when the AVMA tried this a few years ago, you can see how heavy this is. You see all the ethical questions, you see all this, right? We have a code of conduct, we have a veterinary oath, we have all those things that we always want to be mindful of. And so when we make decisions, we have these exhaustive conversations, making sure that we're ethical in our decision making, and what's a partner and what's a sponsor. Let's get our language right. Okay, all right, we're going to be very careful. Who's a partner and who's a sponsor, and being transparent. And we're going to have one of the big goals, like I said, to have collaborative relationships. That was one of the three, right? Being a convener. We want to have collaborative relationships. And we know that we're going to have to walk that kind of line, but we also want to be transparent. Do we have marketing on Axon? So far, we really haven't done that. I mean, that's all not an answer yet, but again, these are conversations we have to celebrate our sponsors, our partners. Who are they? So those are conversations we're having now as we go into 2020. Good question. Yes?
You mentioned that WebCourseworks is helping with some of the course building.
Yes.
I'm curious in how you work with subject matter experts. Do your subject matter experts ever work directly with them? Are you mostly curating all the back and forth, or how is that working? Yes,
our relationship, which I think has worked very well, thank you, has been I'm the point person. So being the digital lead, I am the point person, and I've got a point person too with WebCourseWorks. And so I will get information. I work directly with that subject matter expert and really help them develop the program, give insight, all that, and we get that information, and I work with my contact with WebCourseWorks to provide that information to be really organized. So that's our relationship that we have now, and again, it may change as far as if we, get an internal LMS person that builds, and then they do something more of what some of you are doing. But where we are now, how we work is that I will be the lead in getting this information, giving that to our lead with WebCourseWorks, and it's been good so far. We get true accountability. Me and a guy. Yeah, exactly. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
Are you the primary association for veterinary professionals, or do you have competing associations within your?
So the American Veterinary Medical Association. I don't know what I said. What did I say? There are other associations that aren't really competing with us. There are other associations that are awesome that we have relationships with. Another fine one would be, this is not a commercial, but very well known, the American Animal Hospital Association. That is another fine association that helps their members, helps provide resources, and they also have a conference once a year. We work together, and actually work at how can we support each other. They have a well-being program, and we have a well-being program. How can we support each other? Because we're realizing now, which is different from a long time ago. My days when I joined 30 plus years ago, our world lived very much in silos, very much in silos. And we learned along the way that if you smash those silos and start working together more collaboratively, it actually elevates us all. And so we're all finding our way. And that's what I really love seeing about these times in the veterinary profession, is that we are elevating each other. And that's awesome to see. And that's why we feel comfortable, getting back to the relationships you're talking about, that's why we feel more comfortable and being transparent and having relationships that, again, with a lot of thought. And what does that mean, right? So we don't want to cannibalize. We don't want to sabotage. We don't want to talk bad about, because we're all in this profession and serving our clients and our patients, and, and providing a great career for many veterinary professionals.
Do you offer continuing education credits for licensed professionals, and does that count towards the renewal of their license? Or?
Great. I love these questions. I love them so much. I don't ever want to stop. Okay. So, okay.
Well, what you do is kind of really in sync with what our association does. So
okay. Yep. I can share. So the American Veterinary Medical Association. Why am I tripping over that? It's like, who are they, right? Yes, we have our own CE credit. We have our own accreditation credit process. AVMA CE credit. And we, again, go through a system, and it's got to qualify, and we've got, a way that it accounts for credit. So what we have on Axon does count for credit. And so however, I know there's the race as well. So what we do, our language is that the AVMA's CE credit should satisfy, or should help satisfy these licensure requirements. However, check with your boards. All the boards in our veterinary space are all over the board about what they'll accept and require, but most of them do. It's just that we want to always be safe that this is our long-term, very well-known CE, and check with your board, make sure it's going to add towards your licensure. Yes, indeed. So I understand my time is up. I understand. Oh, it's not up? Oh, go.
One more question.
Oh, I have. Oh, awesome. I thought we were going to hurry up. Get off. Where's the hook? Where's the hook? Huh? Where's the hook?
No, go on.
Okay, cool. I'm just feeling like I can't. I'm sorry.
How'd you come up with the name?
Oh, I love it. I love it. Boy, this was big too. Okay, even the small. Oh no, I'm sorry. Thank you, Clinton. I don't think I answered. I don't think I repeated any of the questions except for one earlier. I'm sorry, my remote friends. I will. Will record me later. Anyway, so great question. So AVMA Axon. So we got some medical folks in here. Do we have medical folks here? Do we have some
I'm not a doctor.
Right? Yeah. I'm a PhD. I'm not the DVM or VMD, or MD or anything at all. However, axon, what an axon is going to be part of the, it's going to be like a part of the neuron that actually, it's this thin part that helps transmit impulses and connects with other neurons. And that's kind of what we're doing, right? We wanted to create this, we wanted to move information, we wanted to move education and connect with the veterinary professionals so that they actually learned, and hopefully one of our goals is to, somewhere along the line create that change as we're moving, because again, we want to be able to, how do we help with that change? By basically providing them information that they may not have had access to otherwise. Right? So again, to all veterinary professionals. So again, looking at change, right? We're looking at how can we help a community. Is that good? Is that good? And check it out. Check it y'all. I'm from Texas, so I always check it out. Y'all, it's like normal. I don't mean disrespectful. It's just this. And I grew up in New York, so the y'all thing is what's that? I guess I'm a Texan. But that's really interesting as far as the axon. It's really very, very cool. And we thought about that over and over, whatever you call it. But we didn't really want to do the AVMA Learning University or the Learning College or whatever you want to call it. So my virtual friend, somebody said there's nothing wrong with that, and she gave me a look. That's okay. Actually, you know what? And there's not. There's nothing wrong with any name in the world, because you know what? That's what we entertained for months. And we narrowed it down to the academy. We had them. Then we were just having these constant discussions about, what else can we do? What can we do that's different? What can we do? And check it up. And then there was one of my partners who really helped get this going and helped bring me into the team. She was having a conversation with one of our marketing people, and it was exhaustive. I think there was, I don't know, up until 12 o'clock midnight or whatever. And then something like, why can't we do something like Axon? Axon, right? So it just kind of came up. So after this closed session, they came up with Axon, and we go, Axon's cool. Let's make it a T-shirt. I could see it as a T-shirt, right? So, but anyway, that's what it is. Any other questions? Oh, hey, Andy.
So from my perspective, you were a master SMU wrangler, because we had you had like 3 months to get this workplace well-being program together.
Oh, excuse me, Andy. I don't know if you heard Andy. I don't know how many of you work. In fact, let me ask you folks, how many of you who have developed a certificate program? Okay. So keep it. Okay, virtual folks. I don't know if I can get an answer from you all. However, there were about 4 folks in the room out of 500 in the room. They don't know.
They do now.
Oh, that's true. That's true. So yes, remember, I'm glad it came up, because remember I talked about we had a short timeline, right? We had a sponsor.
Right.
We had a sponsor, we had funding, and we kept pushing, and then we had a hard line that we could no longer push anymore. And so that was really about 2.5 to 3 months that we did the certificate program, and I did not like how the subject matter experts, the pressure. I know that I was as joyful and funny as I can be. I didn't want to be irritant. So again, the lesson learned, and I want to be strong about that, being realistic about what we want to build, and the time is really, really important. Again, I love excitability. Our programs are cool, all that. However, again, we may not have built the program that we woulda, coulda, shoulda. If we had more time, we woulda. But again, like I said, I think the program that's up now for about 3-month process was good. However, I don't want to, as the lead, put any of my folks through that ever again. That was tough on them, because they all have lives and they're all in demand. And here I am, it's me again, and I need you to do that voiceover again. Oh, what you mean? So thank you for that, Andy. Right, that was a really great experience that we learned from, and we are building our second certificate program now. So I'm going to take those things. We're going to take those things that we learned, and we're on it. So and WebCourseWorks, you'll get that information soon. So I promise them. Okay. Thank you for that, and thank you for helping us through that. That was something. It was a something thing. Good learning experience and good product at the end. Oh, may I share? Okay. what Andy's talking about, our certificate program, it was the first that we wanted to place on AVMA Axon. It was the workplace well-being program, very important in our world. It's not medical, it's not clinical. It's about the veterinary professional, the workplace well-being certificate program. Big deal. And I don't know if you've read your research in the human health field and all, but very important. And so before we launched that, before Axon was up, we did, like I'm sure you all did lots of planning, lots of projecting, lots of budgets, lots of Excel sheets, lots of what-if scenarios, and lots of what do you think this cost, all these projections. How many do you think how many people will want this? So we set a number for the workplace well-being certificate program. We were thinking by the end of 2019 that we would have 500 participants signed up for that course. Today it's almost 1,000, and we're not at the end. So just again, we're learning, right? Learning more about projections, learning more about what folks want, how things work. And we've also learned too about the learning experience. So we call them participants, not users or learners. But the participants, actually, we learned from them as well. We knew we had to start someplace, right, as far as how is this working out, how does it really look, and how does it really move. We've had very few, not complaints, but questions on how to navigate, very few, and basically it's going to be some folks are not right, you're exactly right, are not savvy on the technical stuff. And so what do? Another thing too I'm going to share, we meet these subject matter experts and these participants where they are. So that's something else too, that you don't have to by law. It's not on any kind of checkoff list. But again, one of our key thoughts, and what's really important, is to meet them where they are and help, again, with that momentum to build the best courses we can for our folks. So thank you for that. Those were great questions, and I appreciate it very much. Well, super neat. I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.